For many people, the shift happens gradually and then all at once. You wake at 3 a.m. for no apparent reason, lie there for 2 hours, drift back to sleep just before the alarm goes off, and spend the day feeling like you never rested at all. This pattern, familiar to millions of people over 60, is not just an inconvenience. It reflects real and measurable changes in the biology of sleep that accumulate through the second half of life. Understanding what is actually changing in the brain and body helps explain why sleep quality declines with age, and more importantly, what can be done about it. Several of Britain's leading sleep researchers offer both the mechanism and the practical remedies. The biology behind age-related sleep changes. Guy Lechziner, professor of neurology and sleep medicine at Guy's and St Thomas Hospital, London, identifies the core problem. The brain circuitry that maintains and stabilizes sleep becomes less effective with age, and this deterioration is accompanied by changes in melatonin production. Melatonin is the hormone that signals darkness and initiates the biological cascade leading to sleep. As melatonin levels and regulatory circuitry decline, older adults spend proportionally more time in light, easily disrupted sleep, and less time in the deeper slow-wave sleep and rapid eye movement sleep that provide the most restorative physiological benefits. Light sleep is far more sensitive to environmental disturbances such as noise, light, or a partner's movement, which explains why older sleepers wake 3 or 4 times a night from stimuli that would not have roused them at 40. A second major biological shift involves the circadian clock. Russell Foster, professor of circadian neuroscience at Oxford University and author of Lifetime, explains that the body clock advances with age in a pattern driven by changes in sex hormones, estrogen in women and testosterone in men. By the 60s, most people's circadian rhythm has shifted approximately 2 hours earlier compared to their young adult phase, meaning they feel naturally sleepy and want to wake at times comparable to what they experienced at around 11 or 12 years old. This advancement often manifests as waking between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., feeling completely alert and unable to return to sleep, a phenomenon that is biologically normal for the age, even though it is genuinely disruptive. Lechziner notes that older adults do not need substantially less sleep than they did at 40. They are simply less capable of achieving it efficiently. 10 strategies that sleep scientists recommend. Light exposure is the most powerful external lever for shifting the circadian clock, and how it is used depends on the specific sleep problem. For people who fall asleep too early and wake too early, exposing yourself to bright light in the late afternoon and early evening, ideally through an outdoor walk, delays the circadian clock forward in time. For people who want to fall asleep earlier to avoid late-night fatigue, morning bright light exposure as soon as possible after waking advances the clock in the other direction. Light therapy lamps, rated at 10,000 lux, provide a reliable indoor alternative when outdoor light is insufficient, particularly during winter months. Consistent sleep and wake timing is the single most accessible behavioral intervention. Foster emphasizes that a fixed schedule trains the circadian system through the same environmental cues, particularly light and meal timing, that anchor the body clock at any age. Lechziner specifically warns against the retired person's temptation to sleep whenever convenient. Variability in sleep timing disrupts circadian rhythm in ways that reduce sleep quality, and, as sleep medicine researcher Dr. Ali Hare of the Royal Brompton Hospital and British Sleep Society adds, irregular sleep timing is independently associated with increased cardiovascular risk and metabolic syndrome. Meal timing is a less recognized but meaningful sleep cue. Hare explains that peripheral clocks in the gut use feeding patterns as a timing signal, contributing to the brain's sense of what time of day it is. Eating dinner earlier and avoiding heavy, high-fat, high-sugar meals close to bedtime supports lighter digestion overnight. Foster specifically recommends a high-protein evening meal when appetite permits. Caffeine should be avoided after 2 p.m. in most older adults. Alcohol, while it can accelerate sleep onset, disrupts REM sleep architecture in ways that become more problematic with age, and Hare flags this as a particular concern for the over 60s. Nocturia, waking during the night to urinate, is the most common sleep disruption complaint in older adults according to Foster. The hormone vasopressin, which suppresses urine production at night, changes in its rhythmic secretion with age. Stopping fluid intake 2 hours before bed helps reduce the problem. For persistent nocturia, Foster suggests discussing desmopresynthetic vasopressin analog with a physician. Vitamin D deficiency is worth checking via blood test as it affects sleep quality in older adults and is common in people who receive most of their light through window glass, which blocks the UVB wavelengths needed for cutaneous vitamin D synthesis. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, known as CBTI, is the evidence-based first-line treatment for chronic insomnia in all ages and is especially relevant for older adults in whom sleep difficulty often becomes entangled with anxiety about sleep. Leshziner explains how disrupted sleep creates a Pavlovian negative association. The bed becomes associated with wakefulness and anxiety rather than rest, which reinforces the insomnia through a self-sustaining feedback loop. CBTI systematically breaks those negative associations and rebuilds positive ones. It is effective in approximately 80% of people who complete a course. A key CBTI technique is stimulus control, leaving the bed and going to a different room to read or listen to music whenever you remain awake for more than 20 minutes, returning only when sleepy. This retrains the brain's association between bed and sleep. Aerobic exercise, particularly walking, increases the depth of non-REM sleep by accelerating the buildup of adenosine, the metabolic byproduct of wakefulness that creates sleep pressure. Since homeostatic sleep drive diminishes with age, increasing daily physical activity partly compensates for this decline. Foster notes that morning exercise under natural light reinforces both the circadian and homeostatic sleep drives simultaneously, and that dog owners who walk daily report consistently better sleep outcomes. Naps should be limited to 30 minutes and avoided within 6 hours of bedtime. Longer naps discharge too much of the adenosine-driven sleep pressure that drives nighttime sleep depth. Frequent daytime napping in older adults, particularly when it occurs involuntarily, warrants medical attention. Leshziner notes that the ability to fall asleep anywhere and any time in a 60-year-old is not a sign of relaxation, but a potential indicator of obstructive sleep apnea or early neurodegeneration. A pre-bed hot bath exploits a counterintuitive physiological mechanism. Matthew Walker, professor of neuroscience and psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, explains that immersion in water at approximately 41 degrees Celsius causes active vasodilation at the skin surface, rapidly drawing heat away from the body's core. When you exit the bath, core temperature drops sharply, mimicking the natural temperature decline that accompanies sleep onset and signaling the brain to deepen sleep. Research shows this adds approximately 18 minutes of deep sleep and reduces time spent awake by 20 minutes. Finally, consumer sleep trackers are worth treating with caution. Hare notes that current wrist-based devices measure movement algorithms rather than direct physiological signals, making their sleep stage data unreliable. More concerning, research shows that people who receive falsified data indicating a poor night's sleep will subjectively and objectively perform as if they slept poorly, even after genuinely good sleep. The most reliable guide to sleep quality remains how you feel on waking before checking any device.